All right. And good morning. And welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles with your host, Oliver, your temporary guide, your temporary teacher, your temporary reminder of who you are. But permanently, I am your brother. I share the same breath. I share the same heartbeat. I share the same life, the same love, the same beauty, the same joys. I share the same being that we all share. And not sharing this separate and apart from our source, our creator, our God, our supreme, or whatever reference that you give to that which is responsible for everything, the one cause, the ultimate cause of everything, the ultimate source of everything. But we all share in this one awareness and this one consciousness with our source, with our creator, with our God. And so I'm so happy and grateful to be here this morning, sitting in this space, sharing these commentaries out from our lesson for today, which we have a lesson every day, if you didn't know it. And by the way, I have invited some friends along this morning to journey with us in this lesson that we're going to share. And so welcome this morning, those that are out on my personal platform. I decided to bring you into the fray this morning because I put a personal post on my Facebook page this morning as I was doing my morning walk and sharing my Friday morning sprint to the weekend is what I call it. And the subject of happiness and fulfillment was kind of central to that message. And I shared about what real happiness and real fulfillment, what it really is. I mean, here where we share these workbook lessons out of A Course in Miracles, we have clearly established the fact that what is at the core of these lessons is the idea that there has to be an awareness of what is real versus what is not real. The whole foundation of this workbook and the whole foundation of this course that is designed to help us to renew our minds, to transform our minds, to think along the lines of that which is real. That which is real denotes that which is what? Eternal, meaning that it is infinite. That means it has no beginning and no end. And that it also means that it is permanent, it's unalterable, and it's changeless. That's the criteria for which we use here at Truly Foundation, and the foundation that the course puts out is that reality is based on that which is changeless, that which has always been, that is present now, and will always be. That's the criteria we use to determine whether or not something is real or not. So when you look around and see the shifts and changes in this world that we live in, we call it here a world of perception. Perception means a world of interpretation, a world of change in time and form. And when we apply our definition of reality to it, we come to the conclusion that this world is not real. Why? Because it shifts and it changes, and it moves and it flux and it flows. It is full of ups and downs. It is based on opposites. It's based on polarity. The word polarity means that there is an opposite to everything. That's the way this world is designed. That's the way it operates. And so nothing here is permanent. This is a world of impermanence. Everything in this world eventually comes and it goes, or shifts and changes. It's an energetic field. However, the energetic field is not constant. The only constant thing about this world is the fact that it shifts and it changes. And that includes all animate and inanimate things, like thoughts shifts and changes, ideas shift and changes, commitments shifts and changes, the markets that we operate in, they shift and change, the weather shifts and change. These minds that appear to be separate minds, these bodies that appear to be separate bodies, y'all know what I mean, because if you listen to me, that means you are experiencing a body experience and you are experiencing a mind experience that seems to be private, and it seems to be separate and apart from every other mind, and it seems to be, some using the word seems, and it seems to be separate. Your body seems to be separate and apart from every other body. And we know that the mind shifts and changes, and we know that the body, it shifts and changes. If yours hasn't shifted or changed your body, just wait around a few minutes or a few days, and you'll see the shift and you'll see the change. But this is what happens in a world of perception. This is what happens in a world that is built and based out of a belief, right? Because everything we see came out of someone's belief, someone's idea. Everything. Just look around you. Whatever you see objectively, it came from a thought. It began with a thought in the mind, and that thought eventually became a equivalent to the thought, or manifestation, like we say. Everything, every single solitary thing on this planet is a outcome of a projected thought that came through the mind of humanity. Now, we won't talk at this point about where did humanity get the power, where did humanity get the creativity, where did humanity get the specialized knowledge to produce these things, but we won't talk about the source of that, where the energy comes from, right? We're just talking about the mere fact that results of the thinking of humanity has produced this world. I know a lot of us have the idea that God made the world and God made the things in the world and God is doing all this and that. But in reality, no, what we're living in, what we have created, the homes that we have built, the house that we have built, how we are getting along here on this one planet, how we are relating to one another, how we are perceiving one another, how we either bless or curse one another. all that is our own doing. It has nothing to do with the source of the power from which all of this comes from. It has nothing to do with the reality of the one source, of the one God that is the source of everything. But we have to take responsibility for what we have created. Or what we have made, because this world was made. This world was not created. The world was made. Creation only refers to that which is real. Okay? Let's go to school here for a minute. God is a God of creation. God is a creator. And what God creates is like only unto himself. God cannot create anything that is not like unto himself. And God is perfect. God is whole. God is complete. God is love. God is light. And in God, there is no darkness. So God can't produce darkness. God can't produce duality. God can't make things that are impermanent. That which is real cannot create anything that is not like its very own self, because that which is real, that which is love, that which is light, the thing that it creates or the thing that it extends, it has the very nature in which the source is. Everything that God has created, it has its very nature, it has its very essence in the thing. Because what? God is not separate from anything that it has created. So when you look at this world and you see that this world is a world based on separation, it's based on multiplicity, the many, right? All of this goes against the law of seed time and harvest, that everything is created after its own kind, right? And God only created one thing after its own kind, and that was itself. God made spirit. God made man. God made you and I after his own kind. That is the only thing that God created, like unto himself. God can't create anything else but that which is like unto himself. And so the perfected God created perfection. The perfected God extended himself and called himself the I am, which is you and I. And all this happened before there was any time, before there was any form, before there was any foundation of the world. There was no world. There was no physicality. All this was done in the mind of God. God creates by his very own desire and his very own thoughts. And God thought to extend his very own self. And that self that was extended is the same self that we are now. It has not changed. It is the real you, like we say here, in our community. Our core message here, and I'll put it up to remind all of us, this is our core message, is that truly, which stands for the real you loves you, because the real you is love. So the real you that we're talking about, we're not talking about your body experience of being born in the world. We're not talking about that you. We're not talking about the body and the body mind that your parents gave you, right? Your physicality is a result of your parents. But who you really are and who your parents really are, in their essence and in their nature, they are the perfect creation of God, not in physical form, but in formlessness, in timelessness, but having the nature of God. And the nature of God is what? To create. But what happened in eternity past, before there was any form, any time, was somewhere, somehow, we entertained this idea of what would it be like to be separate from what? From our perfection. What would it be like to be separate from God? What would it be like to be this individuated, separated self in a world where there's everything in the world is separate? Nothing seemed to be joined. That idea entered into the mind of God's creation. and thus you have the world, and thus the world was made. And that's why it's a world based on that idea of separation, the idea that there are opposites, where in reality there are no opposites. There's no opposites in God. God is love, and that's it. God is not love and hate. God is light. God is not light and darkness. Even First John tells us that God is light, and in God there is no what? There is no darkness at all. So where did the darkness come from? Where did the separation come from? Where did the breakup come from? Where did the divorce come from? Where did this world come from? If it's impossible for God to have made it. And I know this kind of causes most of us to think, what in the world is this boy talking about? Because it really comes in, it flies in the face of what we have been taught, what we have been trained to believe. But that's why we're taking this course. Because we know, you know, like I know, that our believing has not brought us happiness and joy and peace. Our believing and our training and our conditioning, our religion has not brought us joy and peace. This world has not brought us joy and peace. And all of the things that we've made, out of all of the stuff that we've made, none of it has brought us lasting joy and peace. And remember, real joy and peace. Remember, we said at the beginning that the foundation of this training, this course, the foundation, the definite foundation of all of our learning here is based on discerning what is real versus what is not. And we've already defined that reality is changeless and is unalterable. It's permanent. But then again, we find ourselves in a world that is what? That is, it shifts and it changes all the time. Our circumstances, our situations, our conditions are always what? Moving and shifting and changing and vibrating. Once we think we got something held down, once we think we've got something conquered, once we think that we've got something mastered, what happens? It moves and it shifts. And that's frustrating, right? Look at our relationship and the history of our relationships. We don't have a very good track record when it comes to humanity relating to one another in love. You don't have to go very far from your own personal relationships, and you know what I mean. They're very difficult, right? You know, in this world of shift and change. Why? Because everything is shifting and changing. Nothing is staying the same. So this is a world of impermanence. This is a world of impermanence. This is a world of change and form and shift. And as you look at it and as you try to navigate it, because everything is moving and shifting and changing, you can get dizzy. You can get confused. You can get discouraged. You can be disappointed. Are you hearing me? Are you vibing with me? And so we have to acknowledge that this world is not reality. Even Jesus, the great teacher, said, what? This is not our home. This is not our home. This is not reality. This is not permanence. He said, we're passing through. We're on a journey. It's even described in the course and in other writings that it is a dream. It's a fantasy. It's a vain imagining. It's a hallucination. It's a holographic projection. You know, there's a whole science out here now concerning the holographic projection, which is no more than a 3D image that appears to be present, but it is not. It's an illusion. Right? I mean, this is the new science. This is the new science. This is the new technology, where people are able to show up in a space, in an image, in a 3D image, as though that they are there, but they're really not there physically. Right? So it is not real, but it appears to be real. Where did that idea come from? That idea came from the same idea that made all of this. So this world basically is a holographic projection of our minds based on a belief in separation. Stay with me now. I'm going to teach you something here. We're going to teach here. We're going to learn here together. Because if we're going to ever really put our teeth, if we're going to ever put our stake down and say, this is happiness, this is fulfillment, this is the real deal, it's going to only come from knowing the real deal, the real you that loves you. That's the only way it's going to come. It's going to come through the truth. And so here we have it. Here we are. We have a whole thousands of years of written history about man's pursuit to discover his God himself and his world. And we see the tragedy. We see the bloodstain. We see the inequality. We see the absolute absurdity. We see all the unloving acts and all of the diabolical things that have happened to humanity on its journey to find itself, on its journey to find and to know its God, on its journey to understand the world that it lives in and what the purpose of all of that is for. And we made an absolute mess. An absolute mess. However, the mess that we made, guess what? It's not permanent. It's shifting and it's changing. It's evolving. All of that mess, shifting and changing and evolving. And guess what? We can't do anything about what the experiences were in the past. We can't project into the future and take actions in the future. We can't do that. We can't take action in the past. We can't take action in the future to change any of that. But what we can do is in this present moment, in this present day, on this 7th day of January in 2023 of our Lord, what we can do is recognize. What we can do is have a recognition. We can have an insight. We can have a discovery. The Course calls it, we can have an awakening, or we can have an enlightenment, which basically is a recognition. And a recognition is not necessarily a change outside of us, but a recognition is basically a shift in the way that we are seeing, the way we are perceiving, not only ourselves, our Creator, but this world in which we live in. So our entire life, our entire awareness, our entire consciousness can be changed in an instant. And it only comes through a recognition or a shift in our perception, our shift in our understanding, a shift in our awareness, a shift in our consciousness. And it only comes through truth. It only comes through truth. And the moment that we have that recognition, and in the moment, in the very instant, and that we have this insight, this awakening, this new idea, which is not a new idea. It's just an idea that has been ignored over the centuries and over the years. And this idea is founded in reality. It's founded in the fact that there is only the one. It's an idea of oneness. Even in some of our traditional writings, inspired writings, it says that there is but one creator, there is but one God. And that this God and this creator is one. There's not many gods, there's not many creators, there's not many lords, but there's only the one. So this is not a new idea. It's an ancient idea that has no beginning. And it certainly has no end. And it's the same reality. It's the same idea of the changeless, unaltered one. And so it is the same ancient idea. It is the same ancient reality that is changeless and formless and timeless. It's the same reality that is love. It's the same reality that is light, and there is no darkness in it. And it's the same reality that can only produce, can only create like unto itself. And so in reality, that which has been created is just like the source of the creation. And that which is created is not duality. It's not something else. But what God created in the beginning was his very own self. And so this oneness that we're talking about is a oneness that is joined as one. It's a oneness that's joined as one. That's why it's permanent. Everything remains the same. Ideas can't leave their source. So this whole idea of separation from God and from each other and being separate in this world of separation, it's not a God idea. Are you seeing this now? It's not a God idea. This idea came from humanity. We entertain this idea as though God had not given us everything in creation, as if God was holding something back from us. And so we decided to go on a long journey to find out, what did God keep away from us? Only to make a mess, only to end up in ruins. And we got whole history books, even spiritual history books. The Bible is no more than a history book of how mankind has tried to pursue God in a world of duality, in a world based on separation. And so you see all the crazy history that's been recorded, like in scripture, in Bible. You see all the crazy history that has been recorded in the secular community about the history of man and all of our disaster. And so here we are, 2023. You find yourself, I find myself here, right? And what I have come to recognize is that there was something that I didn't know, that was beyond what I was conditioned to believe, that is beyond what I was introduced to as being the truth. And so after years of a grand search, like Jesus said, when you find this treasure, you will give away everything. You will sell it, all that you have, to get it and to keep it. And it was in that discovery that there's only one thing. There's only one source. There's only one being. There's only one life. There's only one breath. There's only one heartbeat. There's only one will. There's only one purpose. There's only one reality. And And that reality is God. God is, and there is nothing else. And in that, I discovered that if I exist, and I do, that's one thing that we are all sure of. We're absolutely positively sure of, is that we exist, that we are conscious, that we are aware. You know that. I mean, you're positive about that because you're hearing me. That means you are what? Conscious, and you are aware. But the consciousness and the awareness that we're talking about here is not this body that we are aware of. The consciousness and awareness is not this perceptual world that we are aware of. But the consciousness and the awareness that we now recognize, I recognize it, and you recognize that you are aware, where you are a living entity. And the life that you are is a shared life with God. The life that you are is the very essence and the very nature of the one life that there is, the one source that there is, the one self that there is, the one being that there is. And so now we find ourselves aware of this oneness. We may not be sure of why we are aware. We may not be sure of your purpose of being aware and alive. You may not know that. We may not have clarity on that yet. But one thing that all of us are sure of is that we are aware. We have the ability to notice. We have the ability to imagine. We have the ability to be intuitive. We have the ability to retain and remember, to reason. We have the ability to interpret. All this comes out of awareness. All of this comes out of consciousness. The creation story says it this way, and it's a story. The creation story says it this way, and it's a story. Just like the prodigal son is a story. Just like all the stories that in the parables that Jesus shared with us in his writings. Not his writing, it's what they wrote about him. And everything they wrote about him is not quite accurate. But we got a general idea that Jesus was a man of metaphysics. He was beyond the physical. Jesus experienced life beyond the limitations of this world and the falsities of this world. But we got an idea from his writing that all his teachings were teaching spiritual principles, expanding our awareness. They want the stories. A lot of the stories are just metaphors, allegories. He was trying to teach a spiritual principle to a spiritually separated community, to a mind that had been over learned in the ways of this world, therefore lost its way in its true identity, lost its understanding in what reality is all about. And so he used stories and allegories, right? We get caught up all into the stories and the allegories. We get caught up in the form. Jesus didn't want us to get caught up in the form. He wanted us to understand the reality of what he was saying. And so in the creation story, Adam and Eve left perfection. They left their Eden, which represented perfection. In the story of the prodigal son, he left his father's house. He left his father's house because he felt like there was something outside of his father's house that he didn't have at his father's house, that his father was a limited source. Adam and Eve thought God was a limited source. That's why they entertained other ideas. When the allegory of the serpent came in and said, hey, if you do this, you'll be like God, as though they were not already like God, but they was already like God. You see? So the self-deception came from within humanity. And the story has played out on and on. And we see a history of self-deception, not understanding, not realizing that the only thing that is real is that which is God created, which was himself, which is you and me, not the body self, right? But the aware, conscious spirit that God is, and that we are this infinite self, this infinite being that we are, this impersonal being, not this body, mind self. The body is not who we are, but this impersonal self, this one self that we all share, that is what? Self-aware. That is what? Self-conscious. That is the real us. The invisible part of us is the real part of us. The visible part of us is just like this world of shift and change. It's only temporary. You ever notice that these bodies eventually what? Just like they have a birth date, they have a what? Expiration date. That's not who you are. That's just what you've been taught. But who we are is the very creation of that which is real, of that one life, that one love, that one breath, that one being. And it's all encompassing. It is love only. There's no exception in love. It is light only. There is no exceptions in life. There's no opposite in your reality. And the good news is you have not been changed by any of the experience in this temporary world. You haven't been changed. Your reality is still intact. We have tried to make ourselves everything but the permanent self that we are. We have tried to make ourselves everything but the whole and complete and innocent and sinless and guiltless self that we are, just like our Father, just like our Creator. We've gone to search the world over, like they say, to try to find true love. And we have not found it out there. Why? Because God did not place it out there. Where did God place the true love? In his creation, in you, in your infinite, impersonal, and self-aware self, in your awareness, in your consciousness, in your beingness, and that which is invisible to the natural eye. That's where he placed it. And everything that you could ever require or desire, he placed it within you and placed it within me. And that's what we call the real you. And so if we're ever going to really attain true happiness and true fulfillment, it can only come in the knowing of our true identity. And not only knowing it, but accepting it, welcoming this recognition, like Jesus said, that when you have seen the Father of all creation, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father of all creation. Jesus said it, that I and the Father are one, because he woke up to this reality. And now it is our turn here in 2023, as we're seeking for love, seeking for fulfillment, seeking for contentment and joy and peace. It is not out there. It is in the knowing of yourself. That's where real, true, permanent happiness comes from. You'll notice that the happiness that we seek after in this world, it is very fleeting. The moment we attain a goal, we go after another goal. Why? Because that goal is only temporary. It's only fleeting. That experience is not true happiness. It's not true fulfillment. True happiness and true fulfillment can only come through the knowing of yourself and embracing the reality of who you are in God, that you share the same life, the same breath, the same love, the same light. You share the same self that God is. In other words, you are the representation of God in form as the Son of God, or the creation of God, as that which God created, as that which God extended. It is then and only then, and it's through that awareness and that knowing that the real happiness that you seek, the real fulfillment that you seek, can be experienced, and it is not fleeting. It is an ongoing, every moment, every minute, every day, every year experience of knowing who you are, filled with the fullness of God, filled with the knowledge of God, filled with the thoughts of God. That is true happiness. That is true fulfillment. And now we take that happiness, notice now we take that happiness, we take that fulfillment out into all of the world. And whatsoever we desire, wherever we desire to go, whoever we desire to be with, whatever activity or event we desire to participate in, whatever job we take, whatever family we build, wherever friends we have, whatever hobbies we have, whatever we delight ourselves in, whatever pleasure that we want to involve ourselves in. We understand now that we're not going out there looking for happiness, looking for joy or fulfillment in any of these things or any of these relationships. But no, we take our happiness, our joy, our peace, our oneness to all of those things. And we elevate those things. And we bless those relationships. We bless those places that we work. We bless the communities that we serve in our businesses, in our organization. We bless every experience that we have with our family, with our children, with our grands, with extended family, the communities that we live in. We begin to participate in righteous causes, to lift humanity, to bring all of humanity into an awareness of their true self, because we now know that is what we're all looking for. Is this making sense? It doesn't have to make sense. It makes reality. It makes for this euphoria, this intense excitement and happiness. That's what it makes for. Because we have discovered what we was looking for. And what we was looking for was here in our present all along. It was never out there. You cannot find permanence in impermanence. This world's impermanence. But what you can do is take your permanence in a place of impermanence and be the light, like Jesus said, to be the light of the world. To be a symbol of love, to point all those that are in your sphere, point them within, like you got pointed within, to point them within themselves, so that they can find the joy, the peace, the happiness that they are searching for. And you may ask, why is all of this necessary? Why did we have to go through all of this? When in reality, nothing has changed. Well, that's the choice we made collectively. I can sum all of what I've set up in this little rhyme that we all are familiar with. Didn't know that the key to life was in a little simple rhyme that we've said or learned and know about. But you remember when as kids we learned this little rhyme that went like this. It said, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream, right? This life is but a temporary experience. It's not real. It's not our home. In fact, we've never left our home. We remain in the heart of love, the heart of life, the heart of oneness, the heart of God. We remain there. And we just find ourselves having this what? This human experience. But the joy and the happiness and the peace that we desire, it returns to us when we become childlike again. Notice what I said, childlike again, and realize that we are the very image, we are the very offsprings, we are the very creation of God. And God's number one purpose, God's number one joy is our happiness. God's number one joy is our peace. God's number one purpose is our fulfillment. And when we turn within, and to turn within, you have to turn away from. We have to turn away from all that we've been taught, all that we have known that has not brought us the peace that we've been looking for. That peace, that passive understanding. That's why we haven't found it, because we're looking in the wrong places. God didn't place it out there. God placed it within you, within the knowing of yourself. Grace and peace is being multiplied unto all of us in the knowing of ourselves. That's what the scripture says. In the knowledge of God, in the knowledge of yourself, because you come to realize that yourself is God and God is yourself. There is no separation, that you and God are one. Jesus realized this as a child. He was the first one to complete this understanding. He was the first one. That makes him an elder brother. That makes him what? That puts him in charge of all of this plan that God has to wake all of us up. He's in charge of it, only because he's our brother, only because he was the first one to complete his assignment. He's not different than us, because even scripture said that as he is, so are we in this world. He's no different than us, but we honor his loyalty to completing the work. And now it's our turn. Now that's what we're here for. That's what we're searching for. You're searching for yourself. And he never intended for us to make a religion around him. That's the last thing Jesus wanted us to do, to build religions around him, to make an idol out of him. No, Jesus intended for us to come to know ourselves like he did. To know ourselves as the Christ, as he did. To know ourselves as the creation of God, as he did. To know ourselves as these infinite and impersonal and self-aware beings. That we're not bodies. That death is not real. That this world is not real. That sin is not real. That this is just a holographic projection of our wrong thoughts. And the only correction is the right thoughts. The only correction is God's thoughts. But we have to be willing to go on this discovery, this search. But the search and the seeking, that's why he says, seeking you shall find, knocking it shall be open unto you. What is going to be open unto you? Your true identity, your true self, the real you that loves you. I do want to get to my lesson today, and I see that my time is running, so let me do that. That was a huge preface to this lesson. So this is going to make this lesson seem so simple now. So simple. And so it says. So today's thought is, I can be hurt. Notice now, I can be hurt by nothing but my own thoughts, my own wrong thoughts, I can be hurt by nothing but my own thoughts that are not the thoughts of God, that are not the thoughts of truth, that are not the thoughts of reality. When we don't hold on to the thoughts of reality, the thoughts of truth, the thoughts of God, our thoughts will hurt us. We'll create a world. We'll make a world that will hurt us. We'll make a family and a home that'll hurt us. We'll make a business that'll hurt us. We'll work for businesses that hurts us. We'll play on teams that'll hurt us. We'll live in a community that'll hurt us. We will make hurtful things with our own thoughts that are based on separation, sin, guilt, and fear. When we're like Adam and Eve, and when we are like the prodigal son, and we decide to say, there's something that God is not giving. There's something outside of this Eden or this heaven or this reality that God has made me to be. It's something out there because he didn't give me all of it. And so we create a whole thought system to go after it. And it says, I can be hurt by nothing but my thoughts. We cannot be hurt by the thoughts of reality. The dissertation that I gave you before I got into this lesson, though that dissertation was the thoughts of reality that leads into happiness and peace and joy and fulfillment and creativity. But the thoughts that we make and that we are trained and conditioned by, that this world has trained and conditioned us in, the ego thought system of this world, where we believe in separation. We believe that we're separate from one another. We believe that we have these private lives, these separate thoughts. Our thoughts are private. We think that we're separate, just like everything in this world you see is separate, and then nothing seems to be joined. That creates a whole thought system that ends up in war and fighting and greed and killing and conniving and inequality and superiority. It ends up in a political system that is a mess. It ends up in us building countries that lord over other countries, people that lord over other people. And it creates a whole atmosphere of fear and a sense of scarcity, a sense of separation, a sense of anxiety. And we see the proliferation of people saying that they are mentally unstable and they have no basic needs. The basic needs are not even being met. And it created a world where 3% of the population is controlling 97% of the resources. That don't happen from God thoughts. That happens from a dastardly belief in separation that ends up where you have a generation that believes that they have to kill or be killed. And everybody has loaded up and everybody has turned to the idea that we need all this ammunition, all these guns. We need all the proliferation of armaments. That's the world we live in. We created all this fear. We're doing it to ourselves. Just like Adam and Eve did. Just like the prodigal son did. And we're going off on a forward journey. We left our reality. And we're out there trying to find happiness and peace. And you know what? It's not out there, right? No. All that happens in hallucinations and fantasies and dreams. That's not reality. That happens in a world where everything is shifting and moving. So there has to be a recognition. There has to be a transformation. There has to be a renewing of the mind so that we can reconnect with the thoughts of God. So here it says, we will be hurt only by our own thoughts. And before I get into the lesson, I'm going to read two scriptures. that can help support what I'm saying here. In Isaiah 55, verse 6, 7, and 8, it says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. He's talking about seek the truth. Seek the truth. While you got breath in your body. You need it. We need the truth, man. He says, seek the truth while it can be found. Call upon this truth. Call upon God. Call upon reality. What we name it doesn't matter. We get caught up in names. No, basically it is, what is the truth? I want to know the truth. I don't know what reality is. It says, call upon it while it is near. He says, let the wicked forsake our own thoughts. When we are in our own thoughts, we are the wicked. He said, let us forsake our ways. And the unrighteous man, his thoughts. See, let the unrighteous man forsake his thoughts, right? Because his thoughts can hurt him. And then he says, and let him return unto the truth. Let him return unto reality. That means that what? We detoured from reality. We left reality on a search, on a journey for something that we already had in our possession. He says, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly, our God will abundantly oblige him, pardon him, release him, not hold that against him. And all that plays out in the story of the prodigal son. But when the son came to himself and decided to go back home, the father said, yay, let's have a party. He didn't say, no, you ran away, so you got to be punished. No, love doesn't do that. Love knows you don't have anywhere to go. There is nowhere to go but into a what? Into a dream, into a world of duality, into a world of shift and change where you can't find that. That's not where God placed it. God placed it in your awareness, in your consciousness. And so he said, let's have a party, because the God of love, the Father of love, which is abundantly merciful, said, let's have a party. We don't do like man. Man said, no, we're going to lock you up. You get 10 years, you get 20 years. See? That's our thoughts. We think that rehabilitates. We think that brings correction. It does not. And so in verse 8 is where I'm trying to get. It says, let's do this. He said, why? Because my thoughts are not your thoughts. So there is a difference between the thoughts we made and the thoughts of God. There's a difference between reality and unreality. There's a difference between the truth and illusions. And so he said, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways. Saith the truth, or saith reality, or saith God, or saith the Lord, or saith Buddha, or said any enlightened being, or said Jesus, or said, see, we need to stop getting caught up in the names. It only keeps us further in the wilderness. God has come in every form. God has come through every path, every religion. God has come because God is everywhere. What you have chosen, be faithful to that. It doesn't have to be the only one or the best one, and everybody else is wrong. That's part of your wrong thought, and it brings hurt unto you, and it brings hurts unto others. We need to stop that. In our religious communities, we need to stop that. You're not representing the truth when you do that. God is everywhere and in everyone. And that's a fact. And so much as you did it to the least of these, you've done it to me, is what he said. Why? Because I'm in everyone and everyone is in me. So we need to lay down our religious thoughts that have only brought hurt and pain on the world and on yourself. These religions that separate themselves from every other person that doesn't think like they do or believe like they do. Those are not the thoughts of God. For as the heaven is higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways. So are the thoughts of God higher than our thoughts. And God's thoughts don't hurt. God's thoughts don't bring pain. God's thoughts bring happiness and fulfillment. And then I want to turn over here to Jeremiah 29:11. It's a very familiar verse. This supports what we've been saying here. Jeremiah 29:11. He says, for I know the thoughts. See? He said, for I know. This is truth talking. This is reality talking. This is your God talking. This is your self talking. This is your true self talking. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you. God is not confused. He's not the author of confusion. He's not the author of this world. God is the great corrector of this world. By correcting our minds, by correcting our thinking. Because nothing happens in this world that has come through the mind of humanity. So it's the mind that needs to be transformed and renewed. And that's why we're doing these lessons. That's why we are doing these teachings. That's why we're sharing in the way that we're sharing. So people can understand, so that they can wake up to the truth of who they are. We're not here competing with anyone. We are not here comparing ourselves to anyone. But we are basically creating what was already created. And that is the truth. And we but a voice for God. So he says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, Jeremiah. Towards you, Mary. Towards you, Joe. Towards you, the nation. Towards you, the community. Towards you, the race of people. And these thoughts are towards everyone equally. God is not a respecter of person or race or religion or business or politics or any of these things that we use to divide ourselves. God is not a respecter because he knows there's only one person. What God says to you, he's saying to himself because you are his self. What God says to his self, he's saying it to you because you are his self. We share the same self as God is. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the truth, saith reality, saith the Lord. And these thoughts that I think towards you, they are thoughts of peace, not war. They are thoughts of peace and not evil. What are thoughts of evil? Anything that would hurt you or hurt anyone. What is a thought of evil? To deny the reality of your sinless, of your innocence, of your guiltless, of your infinite self. That's an evil thought. To make of yourself of something that you're not, to try to make a substitute, to try to make an infinite self, to try to make a self of birth and death. That's not who you are. You are an eternal being. There's no death in your DNA. You are perfect, just like your Father. You are eternal, just like God. You are infinite, just like your Father. There is no beginning nor any end to you. And so we need to let go of these self-images that we're holding of ourselves. That is filled with fear and limitation and limiting beliefs and religious beliefs and seeing ourselves different from the next neighbor or the next person that is standing beside us or is living in a different part of the world. We are one in God. And that's our only salvation. That is your grand awakening when you accept this reality. When I accept this reality. There's only the one. And the projection of 8 million bodies in a world where there's billions of different things. When we get this mind, the mind of Christ, we will be able to look upon this world and see a forgiven world. We will be able to look at all of the differences, all of the multiplicity of things, and look right past them and see only the one in everyone and in everything. We will begin to see the face of Christ in all humanity and remember our God. Remember our oneness. Remember our infinite, eternal self. I know the thoughts I have, and they're not thoughts of evil, but thoughts of peace to give you. Notice now, God holds these thoughts of self-evidence in all of us, that all men are created equal. And God holds these thoughts, what? To give us an expectation or an expected end. What is the expected end? The expected end is the same as it was in the beginning, that what God created cannot be altered or changed. You remain as God created you. That's the expectation. Our expectation about this world is so confusing. It's so up and down. Why? Because of what we see happening in the world. This world is not real. But God said the expectation is for you to turn yourself away from the holographic projection of this world. From the three-dimensional illusion of this world, and see the reality of your true self, the real you, the Christ you, the Son of God. Yes, you are the son of man. You're the son of your parents. What your parents gave you is only temporary. Everything your parents gave you is temporary, but you needed the body to be here, so they gave it to you, but it's temporary. And thank God for our parents. But we came here to rediscover that it is what God that gave us that is real, that is eternal. God did not give us death. God did not give us impermanence, limitation, scarcity. God did not give us fear and anxiety and mental breakdown and physical breakdown and lack and poverty. God didn't give us that. God gave us life and life eternal. And so this temporary experience that we're having, when we wake up within it, when we wake up, when we are born again within this, what? Holographic projection that we made, then we become the light of the world. We become what? That beacon of light that gives light to all that come in our present, that they may see. We become this representation of love. We become this representation of light. We become this representation of the resurrection, of the rebirth and the resurrection of reality. And we stay in this holographic projection. We don't get taken out, but we stay in it. Why? Because other needs to know, other needs to be helped, other needs to be guided, other needs to have hope that there's something that I don't know, that in the knowing of it, it will change everything. And that knowing is your true self, that you are the holy, the innocent, the irreprovable, the very image, the very likeness, the very self that God is. That is what we want to know. Out of all the activities that we have participated in from birth until now, we've been searching for ourselves. And you have just found yourself, if you're listening to these truths that we've been sharing here on this platform. Well, we've been sharing these truths since January 10th, 2021, building up. We're on workbook lesson 281, but there's 365 of them. So we're here for another 80 plus days, sharing these realities. These advanced teachings. These are advanced teachings. We cannot deliver ourselves with the same thinking that we've been conditioned with. There has to be a higher way of thinking. Like you said, my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. My ways are higher than your ways. I know the thoughts I think of you. To give you an expected end. And so the expectation is now. And so I'm going to finish workbook lesson 281. It's a very short 2 paragraphs. I'm just going to read through it. I hope this is helping you. It's helping me. And so I can be hurt by nothing but my thoughts. It makes sense now, right? The thoughts of man. The thoughts that we've been trained in that are not true. And so it reads this way. It says, Father. See, that's gratitude. We're acknowledging our oneness with God. Father, your Son, your creation, which is all of us, no one accepted, because if there's an exception to one, it's not whole and complete, and God is whole and complete. That's what Jesus said, that he left the 99 to go to get the one. Why? Because God is all about oneness. God is inclusive. God makes no exceptions. That's the thoughts of man. And you see the mess that makes. God is one. God's not divided. But you see the divided world that we live in. Those came from the thoughts of man. These are not God ideas. So he said, Father, your creation is perfect. In other words, your creation remains perfect like you are. So see, you have to see yourself as the perfected creation of God. And you are. And I'm not talking about your body self. I'm not talking about the decisions you've made. I'm talking about your true essence. Your true nature is perfection, meaning it's completion. That's what it means. That there's nothing missing. God has given you everything in creation. So there's no reason to look outside of yourself. There's no need to be self-deceived in thinking that God withheld something from you. Because he hasn't. You are complete. That's what Paul picked it up in Colossians in the New Testament. He said, I'm complete in him. I'm complete in God. I'm complete in this oneness. And we all are. It's a matter of our thinking, our awareness, our consciousness being infused with these realities. And so he says, Father, I'm perfect. And that's true. When we think that we are hurt in any way, and we all feel hurt at times, like we've been unfairly treated. There's a whole race of people that feel like they've been unfairly treated. Many races throughout the history, many people throughout the history, we can go on and on. They're in the history book, you guys know. And some of you are still feeling hurt because of what has happened in history. And it's your thinking that is what causing you to feel hurt. It has nothing to do with what happened in the past. It's what you're holding in your mind right now. So when we think that we are hurt in anything, so what God is saying here is that in reality, we are not vulnerable, but we're invulnerable. But when we're not thinking right, we give our invulnerability, we give our invulnerability over to vulnerability. We give our freedom over to being a victim when we're not thinking correctly. We take on a victim mentality. Woe is me. We're hurting ourselves. What it says here, it says, when we think that we are hurt in any way, it is because we have forgotten who we are. We've forgotten our permanent self. We have forgotten our true identity. We have forgotten that we are the I am, that I am. We have forgotten that as God is, so are we in this world. That's where your hurt and your pain come from. That's where my hurt and pain come from, when I forget who I got, when I forget who I am. That's why Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. He wasn't talking about him as a person. He was talking about what he represented. He represented all humanity. He represented the oneness that we share. So remember, do this to remember who you are. If there's a little inkling of you wanting to feel sorry for yourself, or feel like a victim, or feel like you've been depraved or been mistreated based on your color or your race or your ethnicity or the history or any of these things that enter into our mind that cause us to want to feel like we are inferior, because we're not inferior. We're actually equal with God and with each other. He said, when these things come on, they come on to us because we have forgotten who we are. And that we are as we were created. We forget who we are, and we try to make another self. You know, we take on our government name, our government number, our government limitations, and we say, this is who I am. And it only brings on hurt. It only brings on a mind that is in reverse. A mind that has an upside down orientation on what it really is. That's what it does. We take the government education and we try to make ourselves in a world and find happiness and fulfillment in it, only to flounder around in more hurt and more disappointment, more pain, because we have lost our identity. But your identity has not changed. You remain as God created you. So you're dreaming of being some poor pompous, when all the time you are the elegant, extravagant, priceless creation of a loving Father who has given you all things richly to enjoy. That's your true identity. This is what we need to be teaching in school. This is what we should be teaching in households to our kids from day one. We should be telling our kids, look, you got a body, but you're not a body. You have the mind of Christ. You are the creation of God. Just think, if we started teaching them this from day one, how much the world would change. Instead, we pass on our foolish thoughts to them, and then we wonder, why is this 11-year-old going into the school and shooting people? Well, that's the mind we gave them. That's the idea. We said this is the way of the world. No, it's not the way of the world. It is the way of a mind that has run away, that has gone prodigal, and it needs to come back home. It says, your thoughts, meaning God's thoughts, reality thoughts, can only bring me happiness. It cannot bring me hurt. God's thoughts can only bring you happiness. If ever I am sad or hurt or ill, notice now, whenever I am sad or hurt or ill, check out your life, check out your history. Whenever you were sad or hurt or ill, it says, we have forgotten what you think about us. Thoughts of peace and to bring you an expected end. That's the thoughts that you think about us, as Jeremiah said it. The thoughts you think about us is not the thoughts we think about ourselves. It says, anytime that I have been sad or hurt or ill, I have been sad or hurt or ill because I have forgotten about the thoughts of God and have put my little meaningless ideas in place of where your thoughts belong and where they are. I can be hurt by nothing but my own thoughts, but my own ways. There is a certain way of doing things, and the Bible calls it righteousness. It just means a certain way of doing things. This earth really works in a certain way. Everything works in a certain way. Our minds work in a certain way. But when we don't know that way, we make up a way that only becomes hurtful to us. That only becomes hurtful to us. And so he says, I can be hurt by nothing but my own thoughts. The thoughts that I think, notice now, this is God speaking. This is reality speaking. This is truth speaking. The thoughts that truth thinks, the thoughts that God thinks, the thoughts that truth thinks, the thoughts that your true self thinks, that has been blocked, has been veiled, has been covered up by the ego thought system of this world. It's still there in your mind. It's just been covered up. It's just been covered up. It can easily be uncovered, unveiled in the twinkling of an eye when we welcome the truth when it comes to us. But we have to make the decision. We can close our eyes. We can bury our heads in the sand and say, no, I'm holding on to what I know. I'm holding on to my religion. Okay. Is your religion bring you happiness and peace and joy? Is it causing you to be loving? Is it sustained peace? Do you have sustained happiness and love in your life? You have to ask yourself that question, and you have to answer it and be honest with yourself. I asked myself that question back when I was in my early 20s, and I was honest with myself. I said, no, something is wrong here. There's something is not right. And I went on a journey to find out what, and I found it. And then in 2005, God said, look, I'm going to elevate you up to some more understanding. And then the Course in Miracles came into my awareness, and I said yes to it. I didn't let my religion keep me from being open to what God was trying to do and trying to explain and trying to get to me. And here I am in 2023. I'm the happiest, I'm the most fulfilled that I've ever been in my entire life. Where did that come from? Not out there. It's not about what I have. It's not about what I do, what I have attained. It's all about the knowing of myself and embracing the reality of my oneness with God and with all humanity. My forgiveness of the entire world. And so I can see clearly now that the reign of ignorance, the reign of this world system has been removed. I can see clearly now the reign is gone. And so the thoughts that I think with you can only bless. That's what God says here. My thoughts only bless. What does bless mean? Nothing missing, nothing broken. No scarcity. No lack, no sickness and disease and pain and suffering. None of that mental health and all this crazy stuff, this unprecedented stuff, health problem we see in the world. It's all has its roots in not knowing who we are. When the mind goes wacko, it punishes the body. That's what it does. It punishes the body. It punishes everything around it. When the mind is not holding the thoughts of God. Like it says here, it will hurt you. It will punish you. So not knowing is the greatest contribution that is made to the pain and sorrow you see in the world. People are in pain and in sorrow and unhappiness, can't have relationships, can't walk in prosperity, can't have good fellowship. Countries, nations can't have peace. It's all because humanity don't know who they are. And they've tried to substitute a made-up self and covered up the real you, the real divine self, the real free self that God made, and it remains that way. So when are we going to wake up? There's a grand awakening happening. Are you a part of that? Or are you still promoting separation? Are you still promoting division? Are you still promoting that we're to hold our history against us? Are you still trying to find peace and joy and happiness in this perceptual world? It's not going to be found out there. It's going to be found within you. The real you that loves you. Why? Because the real you is love. God is love, like Scripture says. And everything that is born of God is born of love. Everything that comes into this world is love. But we've taken our thoughts and we've made it not so loving. We've hurt ourselves. But that has come to an end in your life when you welcome and embrace the reality of your divine self, of your holy self, of your sinless self, of your guiltless self. And when the mind is healed, you'll be amazed at what begin to be healed all around you, beginning with your body, beginning with your relationships, beginning with your finances, beginning with your clarity, beginning with your purpose, your expertise, your intellectual property, your skill sets. Everything begin to flourish around you. Now, why? Because you have an expected end. You know the thoughts of God. You know the thoughts that God has towards you. Thoughts to prosper you. Thoughts to bless you. Thoughts to fellowship with you so that your happiness and your fulfillment is permanent and it's not based on anything other than this one love that we share. And so the thought that I think of you can only bless. And the thoughts that we would think of others will only bless. We will let go of all of these angry thoughts. We will let go of all of these competitive thoughts, this competitive way of thinking that the world taught us. And we'll begin now to think with a creative mind, with the mind of love, with the mind that has no limitations, no boundaries, that we can really do all things in this mind of Christ that we share. It says, the thoughts that I think, this is God speaking again, the thoughts that I think with you. Notice now, God don't want us to just understand that God thinks the thoughts towards us. He said, God wants us to understand that the thoughts that he thinks with us, because God's thoughts becomes our thoughts. God's ways become our ways. God's will become our will. There is but the one will, and that's the will of the Father. That's why I say here all the time, you look out in this crazy world and it looks crazy at times. But I can guarantee you this, there's an expected end. And only the purposes of God shall prevail in the end. Why? Because that's the only reality that there is. This world is fading away. So don't put your confidence or your stock in it. No, but take your life and the time that you are here and be the light of the world. Be the expression of love. Be the symbol of forgiveness, true forgiveness, where we let go of all of our grievances all that we thought was wrong and bad. And we realize that all there is reality. All there is the presence of God everywhere. Everywhere. There's no place where the presence of God is not. That God permeates and penetrates and fills all the interspaces of reality. And there's nothing outside of God, even this world. Nothing outside of God. So there's no need to go prodigal. There's no need to go on a journey. There's no need to look outside of the source of everything. You are one with that. And that's a fact. It is a matter of fact. That is who you are. That is what you've been looking for. And so the seeking is over. When we have found our true love, when we have found that we are the love, when we find out that we are to the praise of his glory, as Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 1. Humanity, we are to the praise of his glory. When we understand that saying, God gets all the glory, it's all about the glory of God. That's not true. God can get no glory by himself. God can only get glory as you embrace this reality of who you are and have the experience of it right here and right now. That's why Paul said, we are to the praise of his glory. We are that which is the demonstration. We are the proof. We are the substance. We are the evidence of the expectation of what we've been hoping for. We are that. You was already that. You were the mystery that Paul talked about that was in time past held or revealed or covered up, but now been made what? Made manifest, which is what Christ is you. You are the Christ. You are the Holy One of God, along with all humanity, as equal, as one. And so the thoughts that I think with you alone are true. So what does your real self look like? Your real self is a thinking self that thinks with the mind of God. That's it. Just that simple. It's just that simple. It's just that natural. That is your return home. When you give up your own thoughts and only embrace the thoughts of God, that is your return home. And so I will not hurt myself today, for I am far beyond all pain, and you are. My Father placed me safe in heavenly places, and he has, watching over me, and he does. And I will not attack what God created and what God loves, which is you. I would not attack that anymore. I would not try to be something else. I would not attack my brother. My brother is who I am, and I am who he is. Love thy neighbor as thyself. For what God loves, for what creation loves, for what reality is also mine to love. It's also your to love. Why? Because God has given you everything. What? To love. Everything. God has given his entire self and called his entire self yourself. And he said he's given it to you because God is love, and what God creates is love, and you are love. We are not that what we thought we were. And thank God, right? Like they say, oh, they are who they thought they were. No, That's what the world says. When we're thinking with our own mind, we're not who we thought we were. It only hurts. We are who God said and God created and God thought. And now we think with God. And we know who we are. Like Jesus said, who do you say that I am? So he's asking you the question today. Who do you say that you are? Are you some inferior, made up something from the thoughts of man? Or are you this eternal, infinite, impersonal, self-aware, holy, whole and complete, innocent, sinless, guiltless, fearless, creation of a loving Father? You can only answer that question. Adam, Eve, where are you? Where are you? Are you where I placed you? Or have you gone on a journey to find nothingness? What is your answer today? So that is lesson 281. I know it was lengthy, but hey, we spend time doing all that we want to do that only disappoint at the end. What we have shared here today on this platform is valueless. It's timeless. It's formless. It's priceless. At least I think so. Anyway, thank you so much for being here into my personal Facebook community. I thought I'd share a live with you today. I do these lives every day. I've done these lives every day since January 10th. I do them on my platform, my Truly Foundation YouTube channel, live every day. And I also have a Truly Foundation Facebook page where I share these live every day. How you doing, Heidi? All right. You know, Heidi sometimes hide out to the end and say, hey, I was here, Oliver. Great to see you, Heidi. But yeah, I produce these workbook lessons every day. This project started back in January of 2021, January 10th to be exact. And our goal is to go through all 365 lessons. This is a decision that we made, and there's a group that follows, and they asked me to do the commentary, and so here I am. And it's been an exciting journey, Hey, love. My love just walked in the door. You want to come get on the camera with the people with your pretty pink on? Come on. They're always wondering, is Oliver single or by himself? Hey, this is my love. And we've been together 32 years, going on 33 years. And we've been on this journey together of discovery. And man, I tell you, it don't get any better than this. It doesn't get any better than knowing who you are. That's what you were always looking for. Always looking for. Yes, Heidi says, Truly channel, Truly Foundation, our YouTube channel. She said it offers true value. That's right. And so we come on here to add more value each day and to build goodwill in the communities in which we serve. So, and we are delighted to do that. So, again, check us out, Truly Foundation YouTube channel, or you can go to our Facebook page if you're a Facebooker and find us. Our Facebook page is Truly Foundation also. Yes. Heidi said, hugs to you, Yolanda. She said, hugs back, Heidi. And so come and join us at any time. We got over I have over 300 lessons already posted on both of those platforms, and you can go back and start from lesson 1 all the way up to we're at 381, but we're at 281, but we're headed to the 365th lesson, which is that 1 year, but it's going to take us a year and a half to do it, because I kept taking detours along the way, because some of these ideas that we were presenting, we know that they were startling to the majority of people. Some of them are hard to believe, like the Course says. Some are just downright, offensive, if, when it comes up against the thoughts that we have versus the truth that God is. But we did all of this in love. And so guess what? See, we done all of this how? See the love there? We did all of this in love, so that for the sole purpose that we can help humanity to wake up to the truth of love, the truth that they are loved, to the real you that loves you. We'll be back on tomorrow. And the doors are always open. Like they say, the doors to the facility are always open. The doors to Truly Live, Truly Foundation, all things Truly are always open. We are an open door. Come on in. You're invited. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye, Heidi. Okay, Heidi, I see your message. 1 through 7 was not broadcast as a live, so I will make them available to you. I'll get back with you on that, Heidi. All right. Love you so much. Bye-bye.